anti-terrorist operation on Donetsk, Debaltseve, Luhansk, Mariupol directions and along the Bakhmutivka highway. According to the State Border Service, for the first time since the Minsk agreements, they detected the renewal of shelling of the Ukrainian territory from the territory of the Russian Federation. It was detected in the direction of the settlement Monotsky, Russian Federation, settlement Commissioner, Ukraine, in the vicinity of one of the border points at the Luhansk detachment. The shelling intensified significantly in Mariupol direction. Here in the vicinity of settlements Novolaspa, Starognativka, Mykolaiivka, and Novotroitska, the militants have more than once shelled our points from Grad batteries, and they shelled from artillery our positions next to this village of Talakivka. Our military are replying with fire. In Mariupol, during the movement of our military convoy, there was an explosion on the roadside, and according to preliminary information, a radio-controlled explosive device worked. 2 military servicemen were wounded, and in the vicinity of the village Lomakine, our military vehicle was blown up by an explosive device. 2 military suffered. On the Donetsk direction, during the last 24 hours, the militants have 3 times shelled from mortars and tanks and fired from small firearms our positions, and again tried to storm the positions of Ukrainian military on the territory of the airport. All the attacks were successfully repelled, and the terrorists sustained losses. They also more than once shelled the positions of the anti-terrorist operation forces next to Slavna, Avdiivka, Krasnogorivka, Pisky, Verkhnyotoretska. In the Debaltseve direction, the terrorists have shelled our convoy of deminers from Grad batteries, also from artillery, mortars, and firearms. They fired at the positions of anti-terrorist operation next to Debaltseve, Vologirsk, Kamenka, Donetsk, and Nikishina. The tense remains situation in Luhansk direction, where the militants from mortars have massively shelled our positions next to the city of Shastya, and they also shelled the residential blocks of the city. Our positions were shelled from Grad batteries next to Verkhnya Vilkhova village, and from artillery and mortars they shelled our points next to Makarov and Vilkhove. The movement of additional artillery by terrorists was detected in Stanichno-Luhansky district. Some of these reinforcements were already destroyed by the anti-terrorist operation forces while firing in response. They continue to shell our positions along the Bakhmutivka highway. The losses are being now accounted for, There were no combat clashes with terrorists along the border beyond the boundaries of the zone of anti-terrorist operation. After a brief interval, the enemy has renewed the systemic air reconnaissance in the delineation zone and along the border of Ukraine. Yesterday, the flights of 9 drones were detected in Mariupol and Volnovakha directions, and also there were the Russian border guards have patrolled airspace with the helicopter Mi-8, and also there was a flight of 2 fighters Su-25 over the territory of Russia without crossing the border. There are the terrorists on the border, on the territories controlled by terrorists. There's a dissatisfaction because the militants have not fulfilled any promises about salaries and social payments. Among the local residents, and information is actively spread about organization of protest rallies very soon. And there are leaflets with calls upon people to support these meetings. Let's remind you that similar rallies have already happened in Ambrosivka, Torez, and Yanakevo, and Sverdlovsk and Chervono-Partizansk. The terrorists, because the terrorists have more than once dispersed local residents with the help of arms, local residents disseminate calls to OSCE representatives so that they monitor the rallies in order to provide for the security of people. Contradictions become sharper between different groups of terrorists. The counterintelligence of the security service of Ukraine over the last 24 hours detained 3 abettors of terrorists, including 1 citizen of Russia. They all were collecting information about deployment and movement of anti-terrorist operation forces. The militants were using information to organize armed attacks against Ukrainian military. At the moment, they are helping investigation with their testimony. The law enforcement bodies are reinforcing measures in order not to allow the delivery of arms and ammunition from anti-terrorist operation zone to other regions of Ukraine. The servicemen of the Special Battalion of Police, together with state car inspection in Kharkiv, have stopped a car where there was a 29-year-old driver and 31-year-old woman who are residents of Kharkiv, and over 1,000 rounds of ammunition for automated weapons, grenades, and knives were confiscated. Apart from this, a huge amount of marijuana. They were going under the disguise of volunteers to the anti-terrorist operation zone, where they helped the terrorist formations of the so-called DNR, after which they were carrying from Donetsk region ammunition and explosives to Kharkiv in order to conduct subversive actions. Yesterday in Slovyansk, in one of the postal offices, in a package that was sent to a resident of the city of Berdichev and Zhytomyr region, they found 3 grenades F1, 1 grenade RGD-5, and 359 rounds of 5.45 caliber. At the moment, the criminal investigation, the criminal case has been launched. We warn people about the danger of handling uncontrolled weapons and explosives. We ask you to be vigilant and inform about such cases, calling the security service hotline 0800 501 482 and the Ministry of Interior 0800 500 202. Yesterday at the delineation line next to Kramatorsk of Donetsk region, the Ukrainian military have detained 3 citizens of Ukraine who took an active part in the activity of illegal armed formations. They were handed over to the Ministry of Interior. The shelling by the militants of populated centers under controlled by Ukrainian forces territory of Luhansk region continued on Thursday. They have 5 times shelled from artillery and mortars the city of Shastya from the direction of the settlement Vesela Hora, controlled by the so-called LNR. At about 4 p.m., several artillery shells exploded in the Energetikov block next to the supermarket. As a result, 7 local residents were wounded, their age ranging from 17 to 51 years. They were all hospitalized. The units of the State Emergency Service have detected and defused 10 artillery shells, 2 mortar mines, 2 conventional mines, and 19 other explosive objects. 1.8 hectares of territory was inspected. About the international support, during his official visit to Moldova, the President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, has conducted negotiations with the President of Moldova, Nikolai Timofti, and the President of Poland, Bronislaw Komorowski. The President of Ukraine said that there is no alternative for European integration, and with the support of Poland, Moldova and Ukraine will continue their movement towards EU. Answering in Chisinau the questions about the possibility of new formats of negotiations about the peaceful settlement of situation in Donbass, the President of Ukraine emphasized that there may be many formats, Normandy, Weimar, Visegrad, and other formats that allow different countries to demonstrate their solidarity with Ukraine. The Minsk agreements are not just about the immediate ceasefire and immediate release of hostages and also the closure of borders for foreign troops. This is also political dialogue that will allow to conduct on the territory of Donbass free elections in accordance with the Ukrainian law. The President said, today in Kiev there will be meetings between the leaders of Ukraine with the Vice President of USA, Joe Biden. Yesterday, Joe Biden and the Prime Minister of Latvia, Lemdota Straujuma, have voiced their joint position that the after effects for Russia for its role in destabilization of the situation in Ukraine have to be reinforced and increased if the course of Moscow will remain intact. The representative of the White House, Tony Blinken, during hearings in Congress, said that the USA is ready to talk about the possibility of providing Ukraine with defensive lethal weapons. He said that this issue has never been removed from the agenda and is still on the negotiation table. Commenting on this statement, the director of the press office of the State Department, Jeff Ratke, said that U.S. can consider this question. He also emphasized Ukraine has the right to defend herself from this continuous aggression, and the U.S., as is known, are providing almost $116 million as a help in the security sector. Jeff Ratke also expressed an extreme concern of the USA in connection with the fact that Russia and its separatist stooges continue to violate the obligations that they signed in Minsk. The Ukrainian Ministry for Foreign Affairs, in its official comment about the blocking by the Russia of the broadening of the mission of observers OSCE, said that such behavior of official Moscow is another proof of non-willingness of Russia to fulfill Minsk agreements. The Russian Federation has again become the only state that blocked the consensus about the broadening of the activity of the mission to additional border crossing points. And the head of the mission of the USA at the OSCE, Daniel Bayer, said that Ukraine, with words and deeds, has clearly proved that it wants the realization of Minsk agreements, national unity and peaceful, and the President Poroshenko has done everything possible to adhere to the agreement. He also said that it is inadmissible that Russia or its separatist stooges have not replied reciprocally to the Ukrainian efforts. He said that Minsk agreements have laid down the roadmap for peaceful settlement in Ukraine. However, the political solution cannot be achieved if only one side wants it to be fulfilled. The Ukrainian Ministry for Foreign Affairs also published comment on the anniversary of the publication of the seventh report of the High Commissioner of UN on Human Rights, and they have emphasized the detailed and unbiased information that this report contains, and the authors of the report are concerned about serious violations of human rights by illegal armed formations, including torture, holding people in custody, taking hostages, summary executions, forced labor, sexual violence, and also destruction and illegal confiscation of property. The presence of a huge amount of modern weapons and foreign militants, including the military servicemen from the Russian Federation, has a direct influence on the situation in the east of Ukraine, the mission concludes. The experts also have confirmed provided by the Ukrainian side brutal violations by occupation authorities of citizens, economic, social, and cultural rights of the residents of Crimea, including mass people going missing massively, arrests and the closure of Crimean Tatar media and educational establishments. And the Polish minister said supported Ukraine.
Could you please tell what could that mean, that Russia renewed from its territory the shelling of Ukrainian territory? First question. And the second, today is the day of commemoration of the citizens who were killed in Maidan, and tomorrow is the day of commemorating the victims of Holodomor. According to your information, are terrorists planning any subversive activities in ATO zone? As to the shelling from the territory of Russian Federation, that means that Russia is not trying even to try to start reach Minsk or implement Minsk agreements. They continue to send the Russian troops to the zone which is temporarily occupied by terrorists, and also provide weapons to the terrorists. As to what we plan for, as to what the activities planned for today and tomorrow, there is information about the possibility of threats from subversive groups, and people are called upon, and we repeat, be very attentive so that our people do not suffer. So our law enforcement bodies and our agencies are working with all the people to block and not to allow the enemies of Ukraine to do what they are planning. It's all according to the plan. We don't have any general information. Channel 5 and internet, there's information about shelling of Dzerzhinsky, which is under Ukrainian control. They inform about a big number of victims among peaceful population and military. If this is happening today, we have not received this information. I'm not ready to answer. Any other questions? Once there are no questions, thank you, Mr. Lysenko. The next press briefing with the participants of the project Masks Off will take place in a minute.
Шановні колеги, ми продовжуємо нашу серію